Hello, hello, and welcome. Welcome once again to the Secrets of the High Demand Coach. And I have an absolute treat for you. Our guest today is Lakia Elam. She's an HR and career coaching veteran with more than 20 years of experience. She specializes in DEI, hiring, and culture building, and is the founder of Magnificent Differences Consulting. Lakia bases her holistic approach to business on empowering and valuing employees, which results in the best work. Lakia believes that many workplaces hold individuals back by pressuring them to change who they are to fit a specific mold. And she is here with us today. Lakia, so excited to have you on the show. I had a blast researching for this episode. I've got all kinds of questions. I don't know how we could possibly get to all of them, but we're going to give it a shot. So welcome to the show. I'm wondering if you could just start off with, what were you doing before getting into, before founding your business, and how did it ultimately lead you to make the leap?
First, good morning. Thank you for having me, Scott. I'm so happy to be here to talk to you and your listeners today. I was infused in the HR world prior to starting MDC. I was director of HR for a nonprofit of about 100 employees or so, and really leading the day-to-day, operationalizing the strategy. So we had a chief people officer. I would work closely with her on strategy, and then I was the infuser. You know, my space has always been with the people. Keep me with your people. Put me with your people, and you'll see amazing things happen, is what I always say. And we were right in the throes of the pandemic, and I was just seeing online how so many people, business leaders were confused. They were just people had all these questions. Things weren't happening. Organizational leaders did not know what to do to, and I'm saying ready their workforce, like to continue to support their workforce in the midst of the pandemic. And I wanted to scale my ability, scale my, efforts. And so one day I was in a meeting with my manager, and I was just like, today's the day. Wow. And she said, I knew it was coming. I was like, today is the day. I am submitting my resignation. And the thing that I appreciated about that conversation, she did not try to hold me. She didn't try to keep me. She said, okay, well, can you, because I didn't know what I was going to do. I just knew that this was the day. And she was like, well, she said, well, I talked to, the COO, and can you consult for us for a while? And it was like a big brick just hit me. I was like, that's it. I am starting my own consulting business. This is how I scale. This is how I help organizations at scale, not just one at a time. And it took me 45 days, roughly 45 to 60 days, to get MDC up and running. And we have not looked back since.
That's awesome. Now, there's two big areas that you guys tend to focus on. And as you mentioned, working within the nonprofit space, folks in the mid-market, kind of that 1 to 200 range. Is that right? And so there's two kind of big emphasis, and I want you to define these for us real quick and then show us how they work together. So the first one I noticed was talent acquisition, right? So I'm going to have you just, what is it? Why does it matter? And then talent experience. What is it? Why does it matter? And then how do those two work together? Can you have one without the other? Do you need both? So let's start with talent acquisition. What is it, and why does it matter?
Talent acquisition is all about getting the right people, bringing the right people in, or moving the right people around that are already in your organization, getting the right people in the right seats. So who are we hiring? And I always say we're hiring or we're promoting the person that is going to, not a person that's going to fit a mold, but a person that's going to help to continue to push the agenda, to push the mission, to help us excel at whatever it is that we're trying to do. So talent acquisition, getting the right person in the right seat. And again, not fitting a mold, not somebody who's going to fit this culture, but someone who's going to help evolve the culture, help to excel at the mission. And talent experience is all about, once you get those people, how are you treating them? How are you making them feel? What are you doing to add to this person, to grow this person, to help this person to see beyond what even they think is possible, right? Like every role, every job, every organization that a person go to and touch, I always say that organization should help to leave that person better when they go on to something else. And that person should help leave that organization or that role a little bit better than what they found it. It's a two-way street.
Yeah, that's so powerful. I want to unpack something that you had in there because I think this is really smart. A lot of folks will have an acquisition strategy that has nothing to do with promotions, right? It's very much about going out, hiring, recruiting, all of that kind of stuff. Why is it that it's so important to you to pull that acquisition strategy together and say, hey, it's both hiring and promoting, getting the right people in the right seats?
Well, first of all, you get people. You have really great people. Like, why not? This person already knows your culture. They're already committed to the mission. They understand the business, or they should. And if that they don't, that's a different conversation. Yeah. But they're already committed. They're already in-house. Why not do something to infuse your culture and to show other people, hey, I can grow here. It's okay if your growth eventually leads you somewhere else. That's, again, a different story. But I can grow right here. Let me do more. We want to get people invested in what it is that we do at the deepest level possible, because then they're bringing their best self. They're showing up authentically, right? And then they're helping, again, us to grow and to get this mission accomplished in the best way possible.
I was just having a conversation about this with a nonprofit leader in the San Diego area, leads a relatively large ministry there. And he's looking at, different promotion strategies and succession plans and all of that. And one of the things that he said, I feel like if we have to hire from outside, then our leadership development has failed. Do you agree with that?
Not always, no. I hear it, but sometimes, this is what I always say, a little churn is good. A little churn is good, right? Like, so some people leaving and new people coming in, because the people that are in, and depending on how long they've been in, right, they already know the organization. Then you start to get more of the same. Bringing people in from different industries, from different backgrounds. It doesn't have to be nonprofit to nonprofit. So for a lot of the nonprofits that we support, I go look in the for-profit space for people, because we need different ideas. We need different experiences. Diversity is more than just, what we see, right? Like race or those things that we always think about. Diversity of experience. How did they get that experience, right? Were they experiential learners? Did it come from different colleges than most of the people that we have to really think about what diversity is. So external hires can be good as well. It's not a failure on the part of the leadership team. And if just depending on how long it's been since we've promoted from within, then we may have to do something different.
Yeah, that's so good. I love that draw toward one. Again, diversity is not just what we see. We could probably spend about 5 episodes on that in and of itself. But I couldn't agree more. And I think that the healthiest organizations I've seen are really, really good at both. They're really, really good at developing leaders, but they're also really, really good about hiring in new talent to keep things moving. And so that kind of brings us to this idea of talent experience. And what all, in your mind, what all goes into talent experience? Or maybe if we can make it a little more specific, what are like the really big pieces that a leadership team needs to get right to significantly improve their talent experience?
Ooh, okay. I think the first thing is understanding who they are as a leadership team. That's number one. How do they lead? What is it? And getting on the same page. I cannot tell you how many leadership teams are not on the same page. I was just thinking about where I'm about to go with this, because I can unpack this in a deep way. But first of all, they need to understand who they are as a leadership team and have some guiding thoughts on this is how we lead. They need to speak the same language when they go out and talk to their respective teams, right? They need to understand, I'm talking about, can recite it like we can recite the alphabet, what it is that this organization is trying to get done. So I'm talking about, how we sing the alphabet together? They need to be able to say that in unison, right? Like, this is what we're going to do this way. All of each respective division or department or whatever it is, they're hearing the same message. It's not different messages, and everybody within this organization is going toward that same goal. So that's number one. Then the second piece is understanding the culture and not trying to create a subculture. So here it is, this organization, we have a culture of respect. We have a culture of acceptance. We have a culture of whatever those, values are that an organization say these are our, core values. Individual leaders cannot, nor should they, go and start to create those microcultures because they, this is how I am. When you're at work and you are put in a position of leadership, it is your job to embody those core values of that organization and to live them, at least from 9 to 5, and not do things to, like to disrupt what that organization is trying to do. And no matter how many times, Mary may be your favorite, we have no favorites. We are treating people fairly and equitably, right? In all ways. And we're showing up for our people in different ways. There's no one way to lead, if you will, right? Right.
And there's a real tension around that. And I would say in a really positive sense of the word, because, with any person absent maybe the founder, right, there's going to be at least a degree or two difference in the values of the organization and your values as an individual. And you've talked a lot leading up to this in terms of kind of diversity of thought and opinion and culture contribution as opposed to just fit or helping us evolve a culture. How do we do that and embody the organization's values, right? Should we kind of put our own values to the side? What does that look like, wrestling between kind of the authenticity of the individual and the values of the organization?
It's funny because, no, we cannot put, so certain things we cannot put to the side in terms of who we are and how we show up. But it is that level of understanding and that emotional intelligence to understand how to get the two to work together. And sometimes it's a lot of soul searching. It's a lot of questions being asked externally to make it make sense. And then internally, right? Internalizing, how do I show up? And sometimes, just maybe sometimes, in that quest, we may feel like this is not the organization for us because it's so unauthentic. Because if you're trying to show up as someone else day in and day out, that becomes a rub that's hard to get away from in and of itself. So I say that people really need to, it starts again at that talent acquisition process. I always tell people you have to interview the organization as much as they interview you to make sure, at least at the onset, that you are getting with an organization whose values are more closely aligned with yours, right? And then as you see things, changing, make sure you have those conversations with whatever leaders, because wait, these are our values stated, and this is what we're doing. How can we, we need to get back in alignment. That's a tough conversation, but it's necessary.
It is. You've mentioned this several times. It even showed up in your story at the open of the episode, but that it's not always a bad thing for an employee to leave. And I feel like especially in the nonprofit space, that's really hard, right? Because it's almost like if they're not here, then they don't love us anymore, or if they're not here, we failed, or if they're not here, they can't support the mission anymore, or like there's all these kind of strings that we attach to people being with and staying in one organization forever, but that's not really the reality. How can we think differently about that to be more open to and supportive when it's no longer a fit for an employee?
As leaders, we have to, so change is inevitable. We always say it when we're in an organization and we're changing from one CRM to another or one thing to the next, or changing leaders at the top. We want our staff and our population to accept change. We got to be willing to do the same thing. So you know what? You've grown here so much and we have nothing. Your role, you have expanded this in ways that we couldn't imagine, right? Like you've taken this PD, we've given you 10 different roles. And now as an organization, we are a staff of 100. You are ready for a director level position. And the only way for you to get that here is if I leave, assuming I'm, the director. There's nothing, so yes, go and be great. I think all too often leaders, start holding people back because they don't want them to go, because they are a strong contributor. But I say, what speaks more to your leadership style and to this organization than sending people off to do the next best thing? That speaks volumes as to who you are as an organization, what your culture is. You grow a person so much, they've evolved you over the last 1, 3, 5 years, whatever it is. And then now they're off doing something bigger and better, right? You applaud them, but you can also pat yourself on the back as well.
Yeah, it is so true. It is so, it's so hard, but it's so true.
It's hard.
So I've got a question for you. I like to ask this of all my guests. The question is this. What would you say is the biggest secret you wish just wasn't a secret at all? What's that one thing you wish everybody watching or listening today knew?
The one thing that I wish everyone watching and listening today knew is that people really know. People really know. So as much as we think we can hide disdain, as much as we think we can hide the fact that we're just not right with a person or with a thing, or as an organization behind closed doors, we say, outside we say one thing and behind closed doors we say another. We speak ill about people. We don't really care about the growth and the development of our people. People really know. And because they know, that is how they show up for you. So I say get right behind closed doors so that then you can do the right thing, out in the open, and watch the change in your people. Watch how they start to show up for you, your organization, your mission, your members. Do the right thing behind closed doors and out in public.
Yeah.
And the world of work will start to change.
Yeah. Could not agree more. Couldn't think of a better way to end the episode. One last question here before we let you go. There's folks listening to this and just every word is resonating with them. It's the right word at the right time. They need a little more Lakia in their organization. How can they find more out about you and the work that you guys do?
Certainly. So they can visit our website at hiremdc.com. They can find me on LinkedIn, Lakia Elam, or Magnificent Differences Consulting on LinkedIn. We're also on Instagram and Facebook. Look for us, find us, call us. I love meeting new people. Always happy to connect.
Fantastic. Well, Lakia, thank you so much for being on the show. Just an honor having you. What a brilliant conversation. And for those of you watching and listening today, you know that your time and attention mean the world to us. I hope you got as much out of this conversation as I know I did, and I cannot wait to see you next time. Take care.